where Mr. talks about product placement. And if you recall, we talked about overheard messages. Right? What did I say about overheard messages?
That's your favorite thing to talk about. There wasn't enough time to cover it.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. The idea is that when people are being, when you're trying to persuade somebody directly face to face, like in a salesperson situation, or when you're watching an advertisement, people are naturally skeptical, right? And so the idea of product placement, one of the reasons that it works is that people are less skeptical. We kind of begin by talking about, you know what, I'm going to totally reverse. I'm going to pump the brakes here, and I'm just going to show you a video. So when I watch movies, this is one of the things that I watch for is the product placement. And these days, if you see a movie that's been released in the past, really almost any movie from the past 25 years or so, if you see a brand logo, it's an advertisement. It's been paid for. Back in the day, they would obscure. They do no-name brands or fake brands a lot. But now, pretty much anytime there's a chance, you see it with cars most often, right? How do they present? What do you notice about the presentation of the cars in that clip?
You always see the logo.
You always see the logo, right? That front grille. That is, you see that in almost all movies these days because cars are a big part of movies, and that's a big part of sponsorship, and that's how cars are advertising these days. Is they're in movies, and it's a clever way to kind of circumvent your natural skepticism towards advertising, right? Because you're being subjected to an advertisement, but you're not aware of it, or you're less aware of it, and so it becomes more persuasive. I said last time I think that Ellen got paid $20 million for. That's a little bit of a simplification. The agreement is between the brand and and a media company. And so in Ellen's case, I think it's probably ABC that hosted the Oscars. And so it would have been an agreement between Samsung and Ellen and ABC. And that's how that would work in that situation. But usually it's between the media company and the manufacturer. Huge increase. So it's tough to quantify how much, because a lot of times these deals are private. The most recent estimate that I've seen is for 2014, that $6 billion was spent by advertisers to have their products placed in TV shows. And TV kind of started slow. Movies have been ahead of TV as far as product placement goes, but TV's kind of rapidly catching up. Anything come to mind for you guys when you think of?
So if you watch 90s sitcoms, they're a lot more obvious about the product placement. So like when the camera angle changes, the can label changes with the camera. And they don't do that nowadays. Like you can still see the can, but the label doesn't change with the camera.
Yeah, it was clumsier back in the day. And it would usually be Coke, and they'd have it angled so that the full label was shown. I would say definitely there's more of a sophistication today where it's not quite as in your face as it used to be. Amelie?
I really like the product placement in WALL-E because apart from the one iPod that you see, you never see the Apple logo or anything, but you hear the boot sound once he flies into space, and you see exactly that typical Apple desktop picture of space. And there's so much in it that's so subtle that you don't really notice, and then after watching it a few times, I totally noticed. I was like, hey, that's all Apple, and then I checked it, and it was heavily funded by Apple, the whole movie, and they even worked together. Yeah, so I really like that.
Yeah, so it used to be that you could see a brand logo in a movie, and it could have been placed there without the manufacturer's intention or without reaching a deal. But these days, if you ever see a logo, 99.9% of the time, there's money that's traded hands, right? And it's deliberate.
So what about a movie like Gone in 60 Seconds? Have you seen that?
I have.
So with all the different cars, is that, because that's the gist of the movie.
Yeah, so I don't know the specifics for that movie. My hunch is that a lot of money traded hands, in part because they're presenting those cars as super desirable, and so that would make it even more sort of a better product placement, because it's, people are so eager to get those models.
Okay.
That's just a guess, though. I don't know for sure. Kenny?
My favorite product placement is watching The Biggest Loser. Because they'll be in the kitchen, be like, oh, I really want some dessert, and then their trainer comes out with that extra dessert gum. Have you seen extra dessert gum?
Yeah.
And it's chocolate chip mint flavor or something like that, and then it's 5 minutes of him telling him that it's 0 calories for one stick of gum for your dessert.
Yeah,
So that's my favorite.
Yeah, perfect example.
I was just wondering, for movies like Transformers where there's multiple, after the first one's really popular, would they charge a lot more money for let's say Chevy being the second one, or would you just pay for it all at once?
Oh no, it's movie by movie for sure.
Yeah.
But and then it's a complicated negotiation that involves kind of the expectations for the movie. So, movies that don't do as much business, it's going to be easier to get your product in there. Movies that are kind of like a horror movie, it's less desirable to get product placed in a horror movie than in an action movie, like a porn film or something like that. So that's all part of a complicated negotiation, which we're going to watch in our next class. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to show you a little video on that actually.
So I don't know about Transformers, but Tesla has a pretty big deal with 007. And Tesla's been in the last 3 007 movies as the bad guy. And so Tesla's got some kind of deal where they're in multiple 007 movies.
Yeah, so that would be one where, so a 007 movie, having a car deal with because the car is always a big thing in Bond movies. So that's a big deal to get, that would be something that would be pretty expensive usually to get into. So kind of three main reasons. I've talked about this one the most, the idea that people are a little bit more susceptible to being persuaded when they don't know what they're being advertised to. That's one reason that product placement has been increasing. Another one is the use of DVR use. How would this relate to product placement?
People were skipping over commercials, in order for people to, advertise, they have to be in the shows that they're watching.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's part of the script or it's in the film, then when somebody skips it, they'll see it. If it ends up on Netflix and there's no commercials, then they're going to see it, right? They're going to see it in the film. So once it's in there, and people aren't going to skip it. And then financing is another reason. So the film Man of Steel, anyone see this movie?
Yeah.
Cost $225 billion to produce. $160 billion was from their brand partners. Brand partner, that's the term that the movie industry uses. They don't call it product placement. That's what we as consumers call it. But if you're on the film side, you refer to them as brand partners, right? And I'll show you what they got.
But did it cost that much to make it, or is that how much they made?
That's how it cost that much to make. 225. No, I don't have it. Oh, there it is. All right, this is a brief version of it, but.
When Lois uses her Nikon camera to photograph this Budweiser drinking alien, she'll discover the truth from his friend at the IHOP. But when Zod sends her a message on this Nokia phone, it's up to Superman to take him on with this U-Haul truck through this 7-Eleven, back to the IHOP, and inside this Sears.
Yeah, the building is destroyed, the logo is perfect.
All right. So, product placement, that's kind of the broad term. Product integration, this is a little bit more of a specific term for where you go beyond just it being in the background. So, they're in the Sears parking lot, you see the Sears logo, that's product placement. Product integration or brand integration is where it actually becomes part of the story or the dialogue. And this isn't a super important distinction because those lines are sometimes kind of blurry, but you'll see this when people talk about brand integration or product integration. They're saying it's not just going to be somewhere in the room or in the background. It'll actually be part of the dialogue or part of the plot. And I'll go through a couple other examples that are pretty obvious where it's brand integration. So
have you watched Idiocracy?
I haven't seen the whole thing.
No, would that work as far as the Gatorade? Because the main product in the movie was Brando, but it had the Gatorade lightning bolt or whatever, and all they talked about was the electrolytes and all that.
That sounds like that might be more of a jab at Gatorade.
Oh,
It's a satire.
That would be my guess. So a couple of, like I said, a couple terms: integration, product replacement. This is kind of a new thing, and this is where you, with the help of CGI, there's some flexibility in product placement. So this is something they've done in at least one show that I know of, which is Numbers. So you can rent ad space in a movie basically by digitally placing brands. So they might have a table, and the first time you watch it, it might be a Coke on the table. The second time you watch it, it might be a Pepsi, right? Depending on who pays for what. So the idea of product replacement, means that it's not permanent, that it's, that brand is put there digitally, and they can kind of switch that out as they need to. And obviously, in the case of Coke and Pepsi, that was just kind of a offhand comment. If Coke were to actually do that, part of the negotiation would be you can't put Pepsi in later, right? That would be how they would probably negotiate that. All right, so it's kind of some famous product placements in movies. This is a movie called E.T. Has anyone seen this?
Last night.
Last night. Or they
I
did
was,
last
I was
night.
worried that you guys were all gonna say, this is way before my time, but it sounds like it is. All right, what movie, or what product, or products is in here?
Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces, right? And this is kind of a big deal. This was a big turning point in terms of product placement because it was so successful for both of them. It was a great relationship that worked out for both of them. Reese's Pieces at the time was very unknown. And in fact, Steven Spielberg wanted M&Ms, and he approached M&Ms, and it was going to be M&Ms that they used to kind of lure the alien. But M&Ms, which is owned by Mars, they backed out. They didn't think it was a good idea for whatever reason. Nobody knows, but they backed out. Terrible error for M&Ms because it was a great opportunity for Hershey, which owns Reese's Pieces, and this really put Reese's Pieces kind of on the map. But that relationship worked really well for both of them. So this was kind of a turning point in the history of product placement. Would this be better described as product placement or product integration?
Integration.
Integration, why?
Part of the plot.
It's part of the plot, right? The alien loves the candy, and it's so it's not just in here kind of incidentally shown, but it's actually a part of the plot, so we call that integration. All right, two big products in this film, and one is easy and one is hard.
Is it Harley Davidson? Is it Aviators?
Aviators. So the first one is Ray-Ban Aviators. Had a 40% increase in sales in the 3 months after this movie came out, which is huge. That is incredibly successful product placement. So would this be product placement or integration? Placement, right? It's not part of the plot. It's just he happens to be wearing them. What's that?
I said it just worked.
And it definitely
Is
worked.
it Wilson, like volleyball?
Oh, that would,
That's definitely integration, right?
what's that? Oh, we'll talk about that in a second, we'll get there. The other one is the US Navy, which you might not have guessed, but the Navy actually set up recruiting stations in theaters. Because people came out and they were like, oh yeah, I want to do that, I can fly planes upside down. And they had, so this is, had a 500% increase in men wanting to be Navy pilots. We're gonna assume that before this movie came out, most people didn't know that the Navy had pilots, right? So we're gonna start from a pretty low number. But people were excited, and this worked for the Navy, and it worked for Ray-Ban. So another movie that's kind of famous for really successful product placement. Castaway, right, there's two in here. FedEx, that's the other one. So the first one is Wilson. Integration,
Yeah.
right? So what do you remember about the Wilson part?
He's a main character.
Yeah, Wilson could have gotten best supporting. Yeah, you never know. Yeah. All right, so Wilson, that's a famous one. The scene I remember most from this is where the ball floats away when he's on the water, and he's just like heartbroken and he's yelling nonsense. That's incredibly good product placement. The other one you guys nailed is FedEx, and it's kind of, in this case, I happen to know that it wasn't kind of your typical arrangement. So FedEx didn't. The way they typically do it is there's a lot of constraints put on the movie director and producer about how the brand will be presented. They didn't do that in the case of FedEx. What FedEx did was provide a lot of support for them, logistically getting them where they needed it to be. And in exchange, they presented FedEx in a pretty favorable light, right? Because at the end, remember, he ends up delivering the package, which sort of speaks to their commitment, right, of to deliver packages.
Doesn't make any sense.
What's that?
It doesn't make any sense.
What doesn't?
Well, the video that you're probably gonna show makes fun of it, but why he wouldn't open the package?
Oh, yeah, because he opened other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That's because of the wings. Because what?
It's because of the wings. You guys not seen the movie? The wings are symbolic. Jeez Louise, people, come on.
Yeah, all right. Another, I don't know if this is quite as famous, but this is just a really good job of product placement, brand creation. Does anyone remember this episode of Modern Family?
Which one?
Where he runs around with the iPad and he's in it at the very end and talks to the iPad because he's stuck somewhere or something like that. Is it the iPad?
No.
This is the iPad, yeah.
It's when his wife gets it in the iPad. It comes out in the Apple Store and it's his birthday, and she sleeps in, so she's gonna get him one.
Yeah.
This whole thing to do.
Yeah, so the kind of the interesting thing about it was that it was for his birthday, right? And his birthday in the show is the same day that they launched the iPad, which is brilliant. It's really, really good product integration. And the whole thing is how do you get they're trying to get him an iPad, and that's the kind of the central plot of that episode, and it's pretty good. I'm sure that, they've got an ongoing relationship, and there's gotta be another episode, the
Yeah.
one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's somehow in the end, kind of the idea, I think, of their advertising is be anywhere you want to be, even though you're kind of stuck in your own little room with your iPad. And they just take the iPad around with his face on it because they're Skyping or something.
Oh, yeah? That's perfect. Yeah, that's a good example.
Yes, it's pushing products for sure.
What's the product?
Females.
That's so good. That's not a product.
In the show.
It's the sunglasses. It's the Wayfarers, right? And I don't know the numbers on this, but pretty much Tom Cruise, anything he wears, I guess it's 80s, right? Kind of the peak of his celebrity. Wayfarers became huge in the aftermath of risky business. That's another one. And this is kind of a more recent version, but the relationship is kind of obvious here. So what's the similarity here? Glasses.
Joy.
Photos.
Young star, peak of the career, sunglasses on the movie cover, on the movie poster, right? Both of them. There's so in this case, it's Jennifer Lawrence, probably the biggest star in the world right now. Getting her to wear your product on the cover of on the movie poster, that's a big deal. And this, she wears them in the movie. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm going to assume they're in the movie.
So does the actor get anything for that, or is that just between the movie and the sunglasses company?
Well, I would say indirectly, because the film now is better financed, and so they can afford to pay actors more. In this case, it's Tom's Navigator. I'm not even familiar with this brand, but this is a brand that gets a big boost by getting Jennifer Lawrence to wear it on the movie poster. So we've got a couple more examples of product placement.
So in car movies, sometimes they'll give the car to the actor. So I do know that like Ford will do that sometimes where,
They give the car to the actor?
yeah, like actor that uses it in the movie, and then they just, at the end of the filming, they just give it to the actor or actress.
I didn't know that.
What about if it's like the company is a big part of the TV show or movie? Like in Friends, Rachel works at Ralph Lauren and it talks about it in almost every single episode. Is that something that's like product placement?
Yeah, well, I mean, I hesitant to agree too strongly. I would just say almost always it's product placement. Because they're leaving money on the table by not doing that. By mentioning or showing a brand and not getting a sponsor, you are,
Free advertising.
yeah, it's free advertising. And a lot of times, you'll notice sometimes when they do reality shows and somebody wears a branded logo or something, they have to cover it up. You may or may not, you've seen this a few times. The reason for that is that competitors are using that same network or maybe that same show. They're paying for product placement or they're advertising during that show. So they have clauses which say you can't show any competing brands, right? Don't give someone else free airtime if we're paying for our airtime. So you're almost always gonna, almost every time when you see a brand or a product in it, or you hear the name, it's product placement and money's changing.
So it's that kind of scenario, isn't that like after the Avengers, at the end of the Avengers, when they're all like super done with everything and they're like, you wanna go to that shawarma joint or something like that, and after the credits they're just eating shawarma, super beat up, and then sales in Los Angeles went up by like 80% in some places for shawarma. People had never even heard of it, but now they're going to this joint for shawarma, for lamb.
If it's not branded, then probably not.
So, but like, so they didn't get paid or anything, like they didn't get paid, but still the boost in sales went up like a lot.
Yeah, I just, shawarma's a big thing in LA, that's,
I've never heard of it. Why don't we have it here?
there's a long list of things. I think it's rotisserie meat, right, that you cut off and it's on a plate.
It's got like that rotating.
I think that's what that's,
They like
yeah.
cut off a piece.
Is that it for sure? Yeah, that's what. All right, we got more breaks. They even have This at the time was, I don't know if anyone's beaten this, but this was the most frames packed into a movie. Somebody might have beaten it so far, or since then, but I don't know. Here's another good one. I think this is actually a pretty good example of it. Oh shoot, I was gonna ask you guys if you knew what it was, but Converse.
Converse All-Stars, vintage 2004. Turn your face up like that. I know you want some. All you gotta do is ask. Spoon. Nice shoes.
It's not bad. So sometimes, that's pretty obvious some of the best product placement is super subtle, and I'll show you an example of really, I think, well, it's gonna be hard for you to identify the brand, but see if you can, okay? It's that subtle. Pay attention.
Yeah, but you could have stayed at the Cheating Heart. Not a lot of fun to be had here. Oh, except for these bad boys.
Ooh, Cheerios, you rebel at this hour?
Hey now, it's not just for breakfast. Besides, I got a big biology test to study for in the morning, and by the time I'm done, it'll technically be, breakfast time. Not to mention, I'm studying to become a nurse, so I feel like I should probably eat healthier. And since they have whole grain and only 1 gram of sugar, which is excellent for swimsuit season,
Every time.
Yeah.
So along with this whole Cheerios make you feel all happy and confident, do they also make you want to study?
Oh, yes, that would be next on my list of things to do.
Good. Need help? I can totally help you out.
You don't have to help me. You've been working all day, you just saw Stephanie get engaged. You know everything there is to know about biology. How would you help me study?
Maybe because I'm trying to get back on your good graces. Anyways, I'm gonna go take a quick shower, and I will take coffee with milk, no sugar, and a bowl of Cheerios for me too, please.
Oh.
And prepare to conquer the world of organisms.
Okay.
Everything sounds better with an accent, doesn't it?
Right, yeah.
Organisms.
Go, Chef.
So gay, excuse.
Oh, you make it hard to hate you for. D. None of the above.
Final answer?
Oh, yeah.
And you aced it! You're totally gonna ace this test in the morning.
Well, thanks to you.
You did all the work, I just sat next to you.
How many hours have you slept?
Fun.
You're an intern. You need all the sleep you can get, so go to bed.
Better. That does sound good.
And thank you. You didn't just sit next to me.
Alright. Well, listen. Finish my Cheerios.
Oh.
If I'm not awake when you wake up in the morning, knock on my door because I've already been late twice.
Ooh. Okay. Good night.
On the way.
All right, who was able to spot the brand?
Was it the fist bump thing?
That's probably the worst product placement of all time.
What show is that?
Oh, shoot. We've got more from this, I don't know. It's got low and low.
Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, Days of Our Lives. How did you not know?
Oh, I didn't.
I really want to Carolina messengers to both of you. Something left from here this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, gosh.
Cheerios?
How many of you brought a box of Cheerios to a restaurant? None of you? Oh, just one?
Get ready
Oh, whoops. Oh, well, I screwed that up.
for the news.
It goes on to explain how Cheerios is like good for your heart. And so the plot is this guy's got like heart problems, and so he's eating Cheerios to help his heart.
It's terrible.
All right, one or two. Well, here's another really good one. Good as in good as in good. Ish. Has anyone seen this?
Super good.
Actually, would you please run down to Red's and pick us up a 6-foot butt? We got to talk shop.
Okay, baby.
One moment, please. Not listed.
I keep expecting to wake up. I thought I was taller. American Institute.
Eric Biotech, how may I help you?
Yeah, this is client Tom Lincoln.
Hi.
Well, then you can show me. Well, be careful. This is a V1209 Caddy, 750 horsepower, $500,000 car.
All right, most of those are kind of clumsy. Well, I'll show you one more kind of clumsy one. And I'll show you some.
I thought the glasses were fake. Are you kidding? I'm blind as a bat. Besides, the mask doesn't look so good with glasses over it. Thank you, View to the rescue.
All right, these are actually really pretty good.
I'm sorry, you're saying you want us to use the show to sell stuff?
Look, I know how this sounds.
No, come on, Jack, we're not doing that. We're not compromising the integrity of the show to sell.
Wow, this is Diet Snapple?
I know, it tastes just like regular Snapple, doesn't it?
You should try plum granite. It's amazing.
I only date guys who drink Snapple.
Look, we all love Snapple. Well, Lord knows I do, but focus here.
Are you all right?
Oh, well, last night Never mind. These Verizon wireless phones are just so popular, I accidentally grabbed one, but...
A 30 Rock list?
Are you all right?
Never mind. These Verizon wireless phones are just so popular, I accidentally grabbed one belonging to an acquaintance.
Well, sure, because that Verizon wireless service is just unbeatable. I mean, if I saw a phone like that on TV, I would be like, where is my nearest retailer so I can get one? Can we have our money now?
I think that's a good way to do it, and you'll see sometimes businesses and brands are starting to kind of poke fun at the idea of product integration while actually doing product integration. Some of you might remember a show called Community. Anyone see this?
Yes.
So do you recall how they use product integration in that?
On the music movie when they sing?
Well, they do a lot, but they had a character named Subway. Remember this? He was, his character was Subway. He was the personification of Subway, and it was sort of poking fun at the idea of product integration while actually doing product integration, which is not a bad way to go. That's it for today.